Today we're on Canto 3, Chapter 16, verse number 32. And verse number 32 says, After thus speaking at the door of Vaikuntha, the Lord returned to his abode, where there are many celestial airplanes and all surpassing wealth and splendor. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is clear from this verse that all incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. There are many similar incidents where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuntha, but they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuntha airplanes. Vaikuntha Loka is described here as having splendid opulence, far surpassing the splendor of this material world. All other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarva Suprabhava. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. The Vedic hymns also confirm this. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. The Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people, not knowing that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world, and therefore they fall down. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So today we're on Canto 3, chapter 16, verse 32, and it says, After thus speaking at the door of Vaikuntha, the Lord returned to his abode where there are many celestial airplanes and all surpassing wealth and splendor. Well, we get a little bit taste of what Vaikuntha is like. There's uh, unbelievable wealth and splendor. Splendor means everything is bright and full of transcendental light. And that transcendental light is emanating from the body of the Lord. Okay, so it's very interesting when it says, it is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. So whenever we talk about uh, Jaya and Vijay falling down from the spiritual world, uh, and then there's this argument you can never fall down from the spiritual world. But all these types of things happen on the edge of the spiritual world. Because normally no one can fall down from the spirit. But when you're on the edge of the spiritual world, then it's possible that you have a glimpse of the material world, and if you get attracted to anything, it is possible to fall down. So, and that's why it says here, it is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha Loka, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha Loka? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. There are many similar incidents where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuntha, but they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuntha airplanes. Vaikuntha Loka is described here as having splendid opulence, far surpassing the splendor of this material world. So the main point is that when you're on, let's say, the edge or uh, the beginning of Vaikuntha, uh, actually, in this case, the gate or being at the gate of Vaikuntha, then it's possible to fall down because you haven't really entered yet, but you're on the verge of entering, but you haven't actually entered. And that's why here it says, uh, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha Loka? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. So this is how people fall down from the spiritual world. It's just like, let's say somebody goes to see what is this place, the mountains in Colorado, right? And somebody says, "Oh well, I want to take I want to take a photo of myself uh, at the on the edge of the mountains," and they keep and they go toward the edge of the mountain, and they slip and they fall. So the same way, when when it says here uh, that, in other words, and it says, it is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha, but were at the gate. So it is possible to fall down from the gate of Vaikuntha. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. There are many similar incidents where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuntha, but they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuntha airplanes. Vaikuntha is described here as having splendid opulence, far surpassing the splendor of this material world. So in other words, if you're on the entrance or the edge of Vaikuntha, it's possible to fall down because you're not completely inside and you're not completely outside. So from that very, let's say, uh, how would you call that? You're at the entrance.
Marginal.
Maybe marginal, yeah. You're right at the entrance, and it's possible to fall down. So when people go, let's say, to the, let's see, where is it, Colorado? You have the mountains there. What's the name of the mountains?
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah. What's the name? Grand Canyon, exactly. Many, no, I'm not going to say many times, but sometimes
Note for today,
want to
brother.
take a selfie, you know, photo of themselves. So they walk to the edge of the Grand Canyon, and they're taking a selfie, and they bend over a little bit, and all of a sudden they slip and they fall down. This is something like that, where it says, uh, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. Yes, what's the question?
Oh, they have fences now.
Where and
Fences. Like nowhere else you can enter the bank. We try to get across the fences.
you've been there? Okay. Yeah, because many people have slipped and killed them, died, uh, getting too close to the edge of the Rocky Mountain, Grand Canyon. I can't imagine they put fences everywhere. It's like, no, it's not possible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Too many people have fallen down. And same way here. Uh, some people can fall down from the spiritual world. Okay. So that's why it says it is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. You see, this is very, very nice explanation by Prabhupada. Okay, so all other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, which means Lord Krishna is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. So there's three, let's say, requisites or three prerequisites to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Number one, and that is that you have to know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. And it says, those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, one, who are conversant with the process of creation, two, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, three, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. The Vedic hymns also confirm this. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. So that's a big statement. The goal of life is to understand Lord Vishnu or Krishna. So the goal of life is not to understand differential calculus or not to understand, how to win the lottery, not to understand so many things, but the goal of life is actually to understand Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Then it's possible to be free from the cycle of birth and death. And therefore it says, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. So the people that worship Shiva, the people that worship Ganesh, the Shiva, people that worship, I don't know, anything else, they don't really know factually what is what. To understand who is actually the supreme deity, the supreme personality of Godhead, you have to read the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That information is unequivocally clear of who is the supreme personality of Godhead and who is the supremely qualified person to be glorified and worshipped. But some people say, no, it's Lord Shiva. Other people say, no, it's Hanuman. Other people say it's this one or that. But by reading the Shastra, you can understand who is the most worshipable deity. And this was validated by Brigu Muni. Brigu Muni was asked by the demigods, please find out who is the supreme worshipable deity of the Trinity of you have Vishnu and you have uh, what's his name? Brahma, yeah, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So they asked him, you go and find out, right? And come back and tell us. So this happened a long, long time ago. What's interesting is people are still debating who's the most worshipful deity, but this question was answered long, long time ago, right? So they're trying to reinvent the wheel in every millennium, but you don't have to do that. The wheel was already invented a long time ago. In the same way, this question, who is the most worshipful deity, was asked by the Devatas, and Brigu Muni was given the responsibility to find out, and he did. And he found out that Lord Vishnu was the most, let's say, most uh, person that was not affected by the modes of material nature, whereas Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma were slightly affected. So therefore, you see, uh, something that's been discussed, proven, uh, and there's no more argument. They're still arguing about it, because they don't read the Shastra, they don't pay attention. They just like to argue about things due to their lack of knowledge. And the reason there's a lack of knowledge is because they're lazy. Not uh, they don't like to. Basically, it's like this: they want to figure things out on their own. That's why there's arguments. But if you try and figure things out by reading the Shastra, then there's not going to be an argument because you're reading bona fide Shastras. Yeah. That's why, the Sadhguru says, I don't read Shastra. So you can't understand if he's speaking something bona fide or not bona fide because he rejects the Shastras. Go ahead.
Maharaj, sometimes I feel like if I say it out loud, like Lord Shiva is not the supreme, Vishnu is the supreme, I feel like that I may offend Lord Shiva. Where what what would be the source of these feelings in me? How do we overcome these?
Okay, look this up now. Lord Shiva says that Krishna is the supreme. He says it. Look it up. Lord Shiva says that Krishna is the supreme.
Is it in Bhagavatam, Maharaj?
Yeah.
In the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva states that the worship of Sri Krishna or Sri Vishnu is the highest form of worship and sacrifice. Shiva claims this as Rudra, the destroyer of everything, and mentions that Krishna is the Supreme Lord.
There you are.
Padma Purana.
And
Do you have the verse or anything like that?
In the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Krishna is also described as ultimate source from which Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Prakriti originate. Krishna is considered Swayam Bhagavan, while other incarnations are partial manifestations of him. In Vaishnavism, Krishna is revered as the transcendental source of all existence, including other gods and demigods like Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also claims to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saying, "O Arjuna, please understand that I am the Absolute Truth." This is an answer given by AI.
AI.
So I did at one point, Maharaj,
What do you mean by AI? Oh, okay.
Artificial.
So I have a few verses that were compiled with references, Maharaj, in the past about why Supreme Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So I can share this one, the PDF compilation. So, for example, it starts with obviously Arjuna talking about Krishna in Bhagavad Gita itself, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Param Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan.
Yes.
So, and then he only says that it's not only me, Vyasa, Devala, Asita. So all these people also have confirmed that you are the supreme.
Yes.
And then Srila
And
Vyasadeva.
now you are saying that you are the
Yes. So there's the three-way collaboration. Like somebody else, it's not just you and me as friends.
Yeah.
So then Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam starts with the first prayer itself. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudeva.
Right. And then so that whole verse is all about how Krishna is the source of everything and he is the one who can cause illusion for even the great sages and demigods. Then we have Vyasadeva also mentioning about Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So he lists all the incarnations, but then he says that Krishna is the original Bhagavan. He doesn't say that for any other incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
He only says for Krishna.
Yes.
And then Narada refers to Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he says that Krishna, the creator, the maintainer, the annihilator of everything, by knowing him, one can return to him and personally meet him.
Yes.
That is Narada saying. And then Narada also referred to, again, Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 1.5.39. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the conceptual parts of the then by spiritual opulences, then with his intimate loving service. So he's establishing Krishna as the Supreme. Then Brahmaji is praying to Krishna in Brahma Samhita, which is we know that Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. So that's another scripture that is corroborating that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he is the origin of all and he has no other origin. And then Bhishma also prays to Krishna on the deathbed. And then he says, this Sri Krishna is none other than the inconceivable original personality of Godhead. He is the first Narayana, the supreme enjoyer, but he is moving amongst the descendants of King Vishnu just like one of us. And he is bewildering us with his self-created energy. So even Bhishma is confirming that Krishna is the. Then Lord Shiva in Narada Pancharatra, this is verses 8 to 12, he says, nobody has greater knowledge than Lord Krishna, nor is there any greater yogi. Nobody is greater Siddha than Krishna, nor is there any god greater than him. Then Ganesha, Lord Ganesha is describing to Parashurama in Brahma Vaivarta Purana. From Lord Krishna, gross and subtle worlds emanate, and again they merge into him. This happens again and again. 50 crore yojanas above Vaikunta, Goloka is situated. Beyond Goloka, there is no other abode, and beyond Krishna, there is no man. O Brahmana, I have heard this from Lord Shiva, and I have thus told you now. So this is he heard from his father, and his
Which is the verse?
this is the Ganapati Kanda, Sloka 68 to 69. All the references are also here. The actual verses are also on the left side. And then Durga Devi in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. In every universe, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar reside. But Lord Krishna is Lord of all. This is the topmost knowledge. The essence of all Vedic study, performance of rituals, visiting holy places, severe penances, worship of demigods, and accumulating pious credits is to attain Krishna. This is Devi saying,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, and then this is the whole highlight. So all these references so that we can.
There is no doubt who is
There's
the
no doubt,
Supreme
because
Personality.
we'll establish that.
Yeah, and in the purport today, it's saying that all other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarva Shiprabhava. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnava. The Vedic hymns also confirm this. Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. The Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people not knowing this, not knowing that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world, and therefore they fall down. So there it is. Very wonderful purport today. And it eliminates any possibility of anyone else but Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God. Okay. So, yes.
But Maharaj, reading from Torah, somebody asking if Krishna is the supreme God, then why is Lord Shiva known as Mahadeva?
Okay. In the material world, you could say that Shiva is supreme. But he's not considered to be the supreme in the spiritual world. So Krishna is supreme in the material world and spiritual world, but Shiva sometimes is referred to as, being the supreme God in the material world. So sometimes people get confused by all these things.
That's why Shiva Bhaktas never want to get out of this material world, right, Maharaj? They just want to somehow control the world. They don't think about
Vaikuntha,
Vaikuntha.
possibly. I'm not sure about that, but it's plausible, yes. Where did you hear that they never
I never hear them talking about our goal is to go back to Godhead.
the Shivites?
Never.
Really?
Yeah. And for them, it's all about somehow, staying in the current world, but then detaching. And that is what Lord Shiva has taught. So, and then that's what they aspire for. That's why they say, okay, you become a yogi. He is called Adi Yogi. He's the first one who told how to be detached from this material world. And then they're all aspiring to be in this world. They're not aspiring to get out of this world. But they want to be yogis for sure.
Well, there's yogi and there's bogey. So you're saying that the followers of Lord Shiva don't want to go to Vaikuntha or places like that. They want to stay in the material world. Interesting. I've never thought of that like that.
Even Devi Upasaks are like that, where they
who?
Devi.
Oh, the worshippers of Durga.
Durga also. That's my understanding. I mean,
Well,
they
Durga
want to
Mata,
experience themselves in that Brahman stage, but they don't think about going into. That makes sense, right, Maharaj? Because they don't accept Vaikuntha, Goloka.
yes. Well, Durga Mata is, she's in charge in the material world. So you could say all her followers stay in the material world.
It is like this, Maharaj. And there's even there is a president, and you have a division, state laws, state laws. Like you have a federal laws and state laws. Krishna comes at the federal level, and Shiva comes at the state level. Is that the closest analogy we can draw? Help us.
Whenever you say an analogy, it's only valid if there are many points of they're analogous.
Mm.
So if there's just a few points, that's weak.
Yeah.
If there are a lot of points, it's strong. Analogy. So analogy depends on how many points that are analogous. But obviously, Shiva is usually considered in the material world. Yeah, he's.
Yeah, I think this may be related to. I think Nirmal Prama Mataji, you want to ask the question? I think
Hare
there's a calm.
Krishna. Sorry. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Lord Rama exemplified the ideal human traits, earning him the title of Maryada Purushottam. However, interestingly, despite this, he worshipped Lord Shiva. That's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. But then later, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to exhibit the qualities of a pure devotee. I was thinking, why wouldn't Lord Rama worship Krishna or Vishnu, considering their association with ideal human traits?
Why wouldn't say that again?
Go ahead.
Why? Good, Prabhu.
Say it again. Repeat what you said.
Why wouldn't Lord Rama worship Krishna or Vishnu instead of Lord Shiva? Because Lord Rama was showing ideal human traits. So worshipping Krishna is part of ideal human trait, right?
Well, Lord Rama, let me see. Yeah, he did. Before he invaded, he worshipped Shiva, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before crossing the
ocean. Yeah, exactly.
Rameshwaram.
Yes, exactly. Rameshwaram. So that's normal because it's like, asking permission, can I come into your territory and kill this demon that's in your territory? So he first, got the permission to do that from the most, let's say, powerful, Devata that's managing that area. Right? He didn't just burst in there. He asked permission.
Because he only gave the responsibility to Lord Shiva for the material world.
Yeah.
So to respect that.
Yeah, that's, we're dealing with, more or less transcendental personalities, and there's certain decorum and ways that they relate to each other, and they have these principles that they follow. You don't just invade somebody else's territory. You have to get permission to enter. Of course, nowadays, people invade things, but just like Arjuna, he had to get the permission of Bhismadeva to kill him. And but how did he do that? Arjuna sent an arrow that landed at the feet of, and then Bhisma sent an arrow that slightly touched his head. So that was a signal. Okay, I say yes. You can kill me now. And how to kill him, Arjuna had to learn from Bhisma how to kill him. Yeah, what Bhisma told him, keep
Yeah.
this lady in front of him, that
Shikandi.
Shikandi, in front of him. So
I mean, he himself wanted to get killed, but then
well, he gets permission from the person who he's supposed to kill, and he gets the permission, right?
Yeah.
And he also finds out how to do it. Bismarck explains it. You just keep this lady in front of you, and I won't, you'll be able to kill me. It's very interesting. You don't hear things like that. That's why you have to read Shastra. Okay. Yes.
Somebody said, in Valmiki Ramayana, the incident of Rama worshipping Shiva is not there. Somebody said.
Who said?
The
Valmiki Ramayana.
Yeah, somebody quotes here. It's not there. It's in the Tulsi. It has primarily come from the Tulsi's Ramcharit Manas.
Yeah. Well, you'll see, and it's he's not perfect. Let's say shastric person. He's almost perfect, but not quite. He makes a couple of mistakes, and Prabhupada explains that. Everybody likes to read, Tulsi's Ramayana, but it's his own personal realizations of Lord Rama. Very poetic and so forth. Is it completely bona fide? No, it's not completely bona fide. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things that he in the Tulsi Ramayana, but it's not completely bona fide. But yet, people read it because it's very poetic and he says a lot of nice things. But he also says some things that are not correct. Like he didn't have a good opinion of women because he had a bad marriage or something. So he makes statements that are not. He says just like you beat a drum, it's okay to beat a woman also. Those are pretty hard statements, especially today, for people to understand. So why don't you look that up? That statement that he makes. He said, just like you beat a drum, you can also beat a woman. He said something like that. It's not exactly the same words, but it's very close. Hmm. See that? In the meantime, we'll continue.
One more point, Lord Shiva topic.
Yeah.
Lord Chaitanya has written something called Shivastakam, 8 verses glorifying Lord, not mentioning that Lord Shiva is supreme, but mentioning how exalted a devotee he is.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So we have to approach Lord Shiva in the mode of Lord Chaitanya.
All right, so the main takeaway is Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu or Krishna is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. So everyone who worships Lord Shiva as the supreme God, they don't have knowledge. Their knowledge is lacking about who is actually the supreme personality of Godhead. But like I said, Bhikkhu Muni proved it already, a long time ago. And apparently, the Shaivites don't read Shastra. Otherwise, they would see that it was proven that Lord Vishnu was the most of the Trinity that was completely in the mode of goodness, whereas Shiva and Brahma were slightly tinged by, say Brahma did not give full, let's say, uh, etiquette, uh, and then Lord Shiva, he wouldn't embrace Bhrigu Muni. So in this way, he understood that it was Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu who was the purely in the mode of goodness. When Bhrigu Muni jumped on his chest, right? And the Lord said, "Oh, my dear Bhrigu," said, "please excuse that my chest might have been too hard and hurt your very soft feet." And then when he said that, Bhrigu Muni just completely jumped off his chest, and bowed down to him and apologized what he did. Of course, Lakshmi was not pleased by what he did. So then she left and started doing tapasya, and there's a whole big story about that. Okay. So did you find what you were looking for?
And
Did you find what I asked you to look for?
So definitely, he's married to a woman called Ratnavali, and then she basically, when he goes to Hanuman temple, she goes to her parents' house, wife, and then after he returns, he sees that she's not there, and then he basically swims across the river to meet her.
So who is this now?
Tulsidas.
Tulsi.
Tulsidas. Yeah.
Tulsi what?
Tulsidas.
Tulsi does.
One Charitma.
Uh-huh.
And then he swims across the river and goes, and then she chides him, saying that you're not even a devotee of the Lord, as you have too much attachment to me, you are just coming behind me. And then he leaves her, and then he goes to Prayag, and then he basically renounces the Grihastha life, and then he starts his journey. That's what is written.
Tulsi does.
Tulsi.
Yeah, he didn't have a good marriage. I mean, he really was not. He was not really happy with women. Let's put it like that. But you didn't get that quote that you made. It's like you beat a drum, you can also beat a woman.
But Maharaj, can you repeat it?
Just as you
Maharaj,
beat a drum,
it's
you can beat a woman.
it it goes like this, Maharaj. Dhol gawar shudra pashu nari sakal tarna ke adhikari. It's in Ramcharitramanas.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And when women hear that, they don't like it.
Yeah, there are some questions in the internet asking if Tulsidas is a misogynist.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's because of that quote, Yeah.
The English, we couldn't find it.
Shudra Pashu Nari.
Huh?
In English translation, that quote was not found in the internet,
Okay.
but I think the Hindi version.
Yes, of course. Okay. Any question, comments? So basically, this purport today is saying, Om Tat Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. The Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people, not knowing that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world, and therefore they fall down. So all the worshippers of the demigods and who knows what, they can worship anything, and see, this was even a problem with the ancient Jews when they were in Egypt in captivity. Egyptians were worshiping like a golden calf or something like that, and then when they left captivity in Egypt, and then they started walking around in the Sinai Peninsula for a long time. And then eventually they entered into, the land of milk and honey, or Palestine. They they had to be. See, the reason they did not enter into Palestine right away is because they were all contaminated by their living so long with the Egyptians. So they walked around, like in the Sinai Peninsula and places like that for a long time until a whole generation died and a new generation came in who never lived in Egypt, right? And they were the ones that entered into the promised land. Right? So, in a sense, the problem with people who convert from one religion to another, they also oftentimes bring something with them, So, and then they mix things up, and then you get a new hybrid. Yeah. So it's very important that even in Krishna consciousness, like someone's like myself, I'm a Christian, so then I become a devotee. I have to be careful not to mix things, right? Not to try and create something new. There's nothing new. There's only things that are shastrically true. But sometimes people like to mix things up and create a new type of religion or a new understanding. I was with this one Christian priest once, an Armenian priest, and he called me up and he was all excited. And then we were friends. So his excitement was he found a new, let's say, a new way of reading the Bible. In other words, he was speculating, but he was excited because he found a new interpretation of some things in the Bible, and he was really happy about it. Right? But in Krishna consciousness, we don't try and invent new things. We stick to the Shastra as it is. We don't try and change anything. But in these other religions, everyone's looking for a new translation or a new speculation about and because of that, there are, sometimes there's breakaway splintering of the religion by people who say, well, I have another interpretation, and then he gets a following, and then he splinter off, and this is happening in Kali Yuga. It's happening a lot. It happened even in ISKCON, a whole group of people left ISKCON because they became Ritviks.
Critics?
Ritviks.
What is it?
Okay, they had a different understanding. Let's just put it like that. That after Prabhupada, there's no more gurus. And so therefore everyone should just be initiated by Prabhupada, even though Prabhupada left the planet. So that's never been done previously in Vaishnavism. But they created this new thing. Now, why did they do that? It's because after Prabhupada left, there were 11 gurus that were appointed by Prabhupada to continue the initiation and everything like that. And about 9 of them fell down.
Wow.
9 of them. Maybe 9.5 or something like that. So the devotees got so frustrated that they said, well, listen, we're not gonna accept these new gurus anymore. We're just gonna get initiated by Prabhupada himself. But Prabhupada is not physically there, right? So their point was that Prabhupada never fell down. He was a pure devotee. So we don't need to get initiated by these new devotees, new imitation Prabhupads or whatever. Because they're falling down one after the other. So they started this different idea of how the parampara could continue. Now, this was a complete speculation. It's never done in the past like that. Yeah.
You're actually breaking the parampara, not.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing.
But they said, no, well, everyone will be initiated by Prabhupada. But see, the fault with that is a guru is supposed to examine the qualities of a new devotee that wants initiation, and that devotee who wants initiation, he has to examine the qualities of the guru. But if Prabhupada is not there, how can he, accept someone as a disciple? See that, and if that disciple falls down, and Prabhupada is so-called the Ritvik guru, he gets the sinful reaction. He's responsible for the disciple. So they don't give Prabhupada a chance to examine the so-called disciple. And then if that disciple falls down, the reaction goes to Prabhupada. So that's why never in Vaishnava tradition was there such a thing as, when the guru leaves the body, people continue initiating in the name of that guru that left, because what you're doing is dumping all the nonsense on that guru, all the people who get initiated without Prabhupada having a chance to accept them, and then when that person falls down, Prabhupada would theoretically get the sinful reactions for the fall down, say, because he's Guru is responsible for the disciple, and if the disciple falls down, it affects the Guru. So the whole thing was nonsense, and it failed also, okay? Because it was never done like that before, even though when so many new gurus fell down, there's no reason to change the traditional system, and you can see now that those initial 11 gurus, of which 9 fell down, but there are still 2 that didn't fall down. Okay. And then after that, there haven't been many gurus falling down in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So it's sort of, mellowed out, everyone's a lot more serious now. But, just because, you see something that is, not right, you don't change everything because of that. You have to purify it. You don't start something new. Yeah.
Only acharyas have the ability to do so, right, Maharaj? Not everybody can just interpret and create an offshoot by themselves.
Well, even the acharyas don't create something new, but they can. It's like Prabhupada, he started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, but he strictly followed all the rules and regulations of his guru. He didn't start something new. It's like a branch of the tree of Vaishnavas, but it's not something new. You don't violate anything. Yes.
It's a priest saint or one who has become a priest. So
Say that again.
meaning of Ritvik, I just googled it.
Yeah.
Ritvik, it's saying the meaning of Ritvik is priest, saint, or priest, saint, desire, one who has become a priest, gender, boy, origin, Indian. Those are some of the meanings. So I was
Yeah, it has different meanings. But the idea when
like when like does that thing where they just like speculate on different religion and everyone mentions
Ritvik is a person.
how do you spell it?
Ritvik.
Is a person who is, let's say, given permission or is given the, basically given permission to initiate on behalf of the guru. That's the actual meaning of the word Ritvik. He can initiate on behalf of the guru, if I'm not mistaken. You want to look up the definition of Ritvik?
There is somewhere it says who.
It has different meanings.
Yes, Maharaj. Somewhere it says who does the sacrifices, like sacrifices.
Yeah, he does. They do the ceremonies. They're also Ritviks. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, Maharaj, so like, remember a story of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur where he took like sannyas initiation from like picture of his
Guru.
guru. So like, how like trying to understand how like
You don't understand how he did that?
yeah
That
how that
Well, it was his guru. And he didn't consider that his guru was dead and gone. So,
is the first initiation for him.
but we shouldn't imitate that. Does not change the rule. There's always going to be some exception in any organized, let's say, movement, but it doesn't change the rule. So the rule is, if your guru leaves the body, then he's still your guru for the rest of your, forever. But new people come that are initiated by a living guru. You can't say, well, no, I'm going to get initiated by that guru that died, like 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. You can follow their example or their teaching, but you can't get initiated by them. You get initiated by a living guru who can examine the qualities of the shiksha, or the person that wants to get initiated. And the person who wants to get initiated can also also examine the qualities of the person they want to get initiated by, right? So all the deviations take place because something happens that's not normal. So when the 11 gurus were appointed by Prabhupada before he left the world, and then like nine or 10 of them fell down. Then the devotees said, well, from now on, some devotees said, well, from now on, we'll just take initiation from Prabhupada because he never fell down. So they completely changed the whole sampradaya, and what's been practiced for, thousands and thousands of years, now they're going to change it. Right?
Fortunate for the followers, those are falling in.
Yeah. And that system didn't work very well either. Because those people that did take initiations, so-called from Prabhupada, a lot of them fell down also, Yeah.
But they're still continuing.
Yeah. That's the thing. Prabhupada said, the Western people have two, let's say, faults. They like to change things, and they're addicted to illicit sex. But the worst thing is they like to change things, And but in Krishna consciousness, there's no change. Whatever is given by the acharyas, that's what we have to follow. So you don't create a new system called the rhythmic system where people take initiation from gurus that have left their body. Yes.
Here, this time I got into this fact of bhakti and talking about the Prabhupada. The Ritvik movement appeared in the 1980s during the Zono-Acharya period, a time of confusion where there were excesses of the part of many. Seeing that some of the gurus were acting in questionable ways, a few devotees went to the other extreme, coming to the conclusion that there would be no bona fide spiritual masters after Srila Prabhupada.
Right. So everyone would be initiated by Prabhupada. Although Prabhupada left, he's never really left, but he's not in his body, and that system never existed before. Right? It was something. It was just a speculation, and it was only because so many of the original gurus fell down. Right?
But that
doesn't change anything. Not everyone. Now the system is working. So. Why did they fall down? They tried to imitate Srila Prabhupada. That's what made them fall down. Rather than continue, see, it's very interesting. There's two, let's say, problems. One problem is you're acting like a guru for disciples. The other problem is you are a disciple of the guru, right? So if you get puffed up, obviously what happened was people went to the side of being the guru of the new disciples and then started imitating Prabhupada as if, they're the new Prabhupada, right? And they forgot that they are, disciple of Prabhupada, and they have to be very humble, right? So they got too puffed up on one side, and the whole thing collapsed, right? So that tension is there. On one side, you have disciples, and they're worshiping you like, oh, you're this, you're that. And they say so many nice things about the guru, On the other side, you're supposed to be an idiot, basically, and it's completely not an idiot, but you have to be completely humble and surrendered to your guru, right? So obviously, what happens is when someone's not really fixed up in Krishna consciousness, they have disciples, they go too much to the disciple side, and they begin to believe things about themselves that are not actually, valid or true. Because a disciple, will write some letter and say, "Oh, Guru Dev, most, illustrious, wonderful guru in the history of the world." It's the hyper glorification of the guru, and it goes to the head of the guru, and it goes into his head, and it begins to believe it. So that tension is there. On one side, you're a disciple, and basically, completely surrendered to Srila Prabhupada. And on the other side, people are trying to treat you like Srila Prabhupada, And so if you're weak-minded, you actually begin to believe it, that I am the new Prabhupada. But see, that tension has to be there. That on one side, you're the disciple, and the other side, you're a guru. But you don't forget that you're the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and you have to be very humble and not be puffed up and assume things about yourself, or let people say, well, he's actually a pure devotee, and he's when I see him, I see Prabhupada, and he's like Krishna, And if the guru doesn't stop that, and to tell people, his disciples, don't say these things, then it goes to his head, and he starts acting as if he's the new incarnation, and that's what happened, and that's why they fell down. They tried to imitate Prabhupada rather than continue to be a disciple of Prabhupada. Okay. All right, we'll stop right there. Thank you very much. All glory. Yeah. Yes. So.
Oh yeah, from yesterday's class.
Yeah.
The translation. Yeah, the Lord assured the two Vaikuntha inhabitants during the day by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the brahmanas, and within a very short time return to me.
So you're disturbed by the word anger?
No, that's not. So my question was, so Parikshit Maharaj, he got cursed because he put the snake on the Rishi, Shamika Rishi, and then his son cursed him that like a snake bird will kill him.
Yeah.
But then he went to Sukadev Goswami and practiced bhakti. So shouldn't he be cleansed of the sin of, and then so he shouldn't be killed by the snake bird? Or does cleansing the sin mean that he still suffers the sinful reaction but goes back to God?
Yeah, that's a good question. He was able to counter that sin. He had the power to counter it, but he accepted it. He didn't counter it. Now, why did he do that? Well, he was giving an example that if there is, let's say there's in a moment of anger, you do something, and later on you realize you made a mistake, right? So you have to pay for that mistake, right? So putting the dead snake on the father of that person, it was not a nice thing to do. Just because he was meditating and he didn't pay it, he was in meditation. He didn't, come out of his meditation to acknowledge the presence of so and so. It was not a nice thing to do. And the son, he went overboard, way beyond. So when the father, got out of his trance and realized what the son did, he said, "We shouldn't have done that. It was unnecessary." So you see how things happen, and you can, sometimes people overreact, and it causes more problems. So the best thing is always be very patient and not jump to conclusions until you give people a chance to give an opinion. So he jumped to a conclusion that, oh, my father was insulted like this, and I'm going to kill this man because he should not have done that. But the father himself was not offended by what happened. You see, so it was a mistake by his son who overreacted. It's just like, sometimes people say, "Oh, well, Lord Rama was mean because he exiled Sita." You know, and after he, you know, uh, was able to defeat Rama and save Sita, then he exiled her. So people think, well, he's really nasty, he should not have done that. But there was a reason for that. And they don't look at what Sita says, however. She says that I understand why my husband did this, because he can't be a leader if there is some stain on him, you know. And because she was captive for about a year, Ravana, people were thinking that, well, she must, people speculate, right? They think that she was maybe defiled by the Ravana during that 1 year. And then Rama accepts her back because he's too, let's say, weak to punish her or whatever. Of course, she didn't make any mistakes, and she proved it. She did what's called the trial of fire, where she voluntarily walked into a big fire, and even her sari didn't get singed by the fire, right? Because she was chaste. But still, there was the question, while she was under the control of Ravana, did she, let's say, do something, succumb to his, desires or whatever? Well, first of all, she was never really kidnapped. It was the Maya Sita that was kidnapped, right? No one could put a hand on Sita and kidnap her. So there's a lot of different things happening in this pastime. But the main thing is that she was never defiled, and there was no reason to banish her. But eventually, Sita leaves. Sita leaves, and after going through all the trouble to get her back, then she leaves. So that's more or less the end of the story right there. Yeah. So there are many things that are going on. That's why you have to carefully, first of all, you're not going to understand anything by reading comic books, right? And you're not going to understand anything by just reading it yourself and not reading the commentaries, or the, purports. So you have to be very patient and go, let's say verse by verse, and read the verse, and then hear Prabhupada's purport. Then you'll be able to understand things. And there are a lot of mysterious things. The main thing is in our life that man manabhava mad bhakto mad yajimam namaskar vaisisi satyante pratijana priyas. We should always be thinking of Krishna. And we should understand who Krishna is through Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam with the purports of Srila Prabhupada. So that means it's a lifetime endeavor. You just can't read the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavatam. It's hard to read the whole Bhagavatam. It could take a whole lifetime. But still, you have to slowly go verse by verse and discuss things and try to, understand clearly what the purport is saying. You don't just read the verses. If you read the verses, like we said before, you always get confused. You have to read the verse, then you have to read Prabhupada's purport. Then you begin to understand things. Just like it says here that the yes, it is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuntha? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. Now, you would not know that if you just read the verse. You would not know that.
This is like same as coming to US through an airport, but you're still under the immigration check.
Yeah, you're not.
You're technically, you may be thinking that you are in US land, but you can be easily deported.
Yeah. You haven't entered yet.
You haven't entered.
So you have to read purpose.
There's a couple of other comments. I think, Mataji, you want to share about, I think Tulsi Das's Ramcharitmanas may be misinterpreted because he's referring to when he says that Nari, Pashusaman Nari, is actually Shurpanaka. He was referring to who deserves punishment. So
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have heard some lectures on this particular verse, Tadana ke adhikari. The Tadana, like the Sanskrit word Tadana, has many meanings to it. So for different context, it's like it is used differently. The meaning is different. The dhol, the Tadana is different, and the Nari is a Pasu Shaman Nari. And even the verse you will be reading, there is some comma difference. With the comma, it is like Pasu Shaman is to Pasu and Nari is together. It is written. So it's like Pasu Shaman Nari. So Ramcharitmanas, where Tulsidas, who is glorifying Sita Devi so much, how can he actually suggest beating of a man? No, it is the context. It is differently specified on that. And Sudra is Sudra is normally we think it's a very low class people, but Sudra is the from Lord Vishnu's position. Sudra is the lotus feet. From there, Sudra are coming. So it is not a very small position. So, but those who are working for working class people and they have low intelligence, they need some guidance. In that context, it is said. And so, where Sita Devi is so glorified in Brahmacharitmanas, he is not suggesting that. Rather, he is suggesting Pasu Shaman Nari, those women who are like Supanikha, they are subjected to punishment. And some more details were there I have forgotten, but this is what I know about.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but still, the Tulsidas didn't have a good marriage, and he was known not to really be someone who liked women. I mean, he didn't hate women, but he didn't really like women because his marriage was not good. That's what I've read. So maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, but he doesn't really present. Well, anyway, he is a. Srila Prabhupada said that the Ramcharitmanas is poetically very nice, but there are mistakes in it. And he pointed out one of them was that, he says just at one point, Tulsidas says, just as you beat a drum, you can also beat a woman or beat your wife or whatever. So Prabhupada pointed out a few mistakes that were in the Ramcharitmanas. That doesn't mean it's all bad because, it's very poetic and there's a lot of wonderful, emotions expressed by Tulsidas. And Prabhupada mentioned that also. He said these were his personal, let's say, realizations and emotional, let's say, feelings about Lord Rama. But at the same time, it's not perfect Shastra. Let's put it like that. There are some mistakes. So best thing is to read Bhagavatam. And there is, there's not just one Ramayana. There's Ramayana in the Bhagavatam, and there's Ramayana in the where is it? There's three Ramayanas. The Ramayana is in Srimad Bhagavatam, and there's Ramayana by Valmiki, and there's one other Ramayana that are bona fide. And then there are a lot of other Ramayanas that are not bona fide. So best one is to read, the Ramayana that's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a whole chapter of the Bhagavatam about Lord Rama and his pastimes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
And then one question, Ajay Prabhu, you want to ask? Okay, I can read the question. What comes first, religion or country or God?
What comes first? Obviously, it's God. In other words, you don't know what the religion is without God. It wouldn't be a religion if it's without God. So you have to first understand who God is. Then you can understand, which religions are bona fide and which are not bona fide, right? So what was the third thing?
And country.
Country, yeah. Country is not. It's a materialistic, idea. But who God is, that's the real thing. So once you understand who God is, Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, who has, infinite number of incarnations. He can appear as Lord Rama, etc., or Varaha, so forth. So once you understand who God is, then you can easily understand everything else. But if you don't understand who God is, then you'll make many mistakes.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Haribol.